The rush to real value. By the end of that terrible day, commodities of all stripes, precious and industrial metals, oil, foodstuffs, will shoot to the moon. But it will not be because of ordinary citizens have lost faith in the dollar. That will happen in the days and weeks ahead. It will happen because once treasuries are not the sure store of value, where are all those money managers supposed to stick these dollars? In a big old vault under the mattress in euros? At the time of the panic, commodities will be perceived as the only sure sort of value. If treasuries are suddenly aneurysmia to the market, just as the treasuries were perceived as the only sure store of value when so many of the MBSs and CMBSs went sour in 2007 and 2008. It won't be commodity ETFs or derivatives. Those will be dismissed rightfully as being less safe than treasuries. Unlike before the autumn of '08, this time around people will pay attention to counterparty risk. So the run on commodities will be for actual feel it because it's their commodities. By the end of the day of this panic, commodities will have risen between 50 and 100%. By week's end, we're talking 150 to 250%. My private guess is that gold will be finessed, but silver will shoot up the most to 100 an ounce within the week. Chaos hits Main Street. Of course, once commodities start to balloon, that's when ordinary citizens will get their first taste of hyperinflation. They'll see it at the gas pumps. If oil spikes from 74 to 150 in a day, and then to 300 in a matter of a week, perfectly possible in the midst of a panic, the gallon of gasoline will go to what? 10, 15, $20? So what happens then? People, regular Main Street people, will be crazy to buy up commodities, heating oil, fuel, gasoline, whatever, and buy them now while they are still more or less affordable, rather than later when that $15 gallon of gas shoots to $30 per gallon. If everyone decides at roughly the same time to exchange one good, currency, for another, commodities, what happens to the relative price of one and the relative value of the other? Easy. One soars, the other collapses. When people freak out and begin panic buying havoc commodities, their ordinary financial assets, equities, bonds, etc., will collapse. Everyone will be rushing to get cash so they can turn around and buy commodities. So immediately after the treasury markets tank, equities will fall catastrophically, probably within the few days immediately following the treasury panic. This collapse in equity prices will bring an equivalent burst in commodity prices, a second leg up, if you will. The counterintuitive asset slump. This sell-off of assets in pursuit to commodities will be self-reinforcing. There won't be anything to stop it. As it spills over into the everyday economy, regular people will panic and start unloading hard assets, durable goods, cars and trucks, houses, in order to get commodities, principally heating oil, gas, and foodstuffs. In other words, real-world assets will not appreciate or even hold their value when the hyperinflation comes. This is something hyperinflationist skeptics never quite seem to grasp. In hyperinflation, asset prices don't skyrocket, they collapse, both nominally and in relation to consumable commodities. A $300,000 house falls to $60,000 or less, or better yet, 50 ounces of silver. Because in a hyperinflationist episode, a house is worthless, whereas 50 bits of silver can actually buy you stuff you might need. I'm not so up with him on that, but anywho. Delusions, damn delusions, and hope in government. Right now I'm guessing that sensible people who have read this, or heard it, are dismissing me as crazy, or at least a victim of my own imagination. These sensible people will argue that the government, be it the Fed, editor's note, actually a non-governmental organization, of course, or the Treasury, of a combination thereof, will find a way to stem the panic in treasuries, if there ever is one, and put a stop to hyperinflation, if such a foolish and outlandish notion ever came to pass in America. So the government will save us, is that it? Okay, so then my question is, how? Let's take the Fed. How can they stop a run on treasuries? Answer, they can't. The Fed has already been shoring up treasuries. That was their strategy in 2008-2009. Buy up the toxic assets from the too big to fail banks and have them turn around and buy treasuries instead, all the while carefully monitoring treasuries for signs of weakness. If treasuries now turn toxic, what's the Fed supposed to do? Bernanke long ago ran out of ammo. He's just waving an empty gun around. If there's a run on treasuries and he starts buying them to prop them up, it'll only give incentive to other treasury holders to get out now while the going's still good. If everyone decides to get out of treasuries, then Bernanke and the Fed can do absolutely nothing effective. They're at the mercy of events. In fact, they have been for quite a while already. They have just haven't realized it. Well, if the Fed can't stop this, how about the federal government? Surely they can stop this, right? In a word, no. They certainly lack the means to prevent a run on treasuries. And as to hyperinflation, what exactly would the federal government do to stop it? Impossible price controls? That will only give rise to a rampant black market. Put soldiers out on the street? America is too big. Squirt out more stimulus? Sure. Pump even more currency in the rapidly hyperinflating everyday economy? Right. The Nipponese divergence. This is all bloody ridiculous. I can practically hear the hyperinflation skeptics fume. We're just going through what the Japanese experienced. Just like the U.S., they went into massive government stimulus and they invented quantitative easing. And look what's happened to them. Stagnation, yes. Hyperinflation, no. That's right. The parallels with Japan are remarkably similar, except for one key difference. Japanese sovereign debt is infinitely more stable than America's, because in Japan, the people are savers. They own the Japanese debt. In America, the people are broke, and the nervous Nelly banks own the debt. That's why Japanese sovereign debt is solid, whereas American treasuries are soap bubbly fragile. That's why I think there'll be hyperinflation in America. That the bubble's soon going to pop. I'm guessing that it'll happen this fall, without question, before the end of 2011. Conclusions. The question for us now is, like Rothschild said, when there's blood in the streets, the thing to do is prepare for hyperinflation. Would be to invest in diversified hard metal basket before the event. No equities, no ETFs, no derivatives, yada yada yada. Final thought, what is the truth? People do not wish to hear the truth. They would rather hear something that makes them feel good, and they want to believe, that allows them to relax in their comfort zone. Today, the vast majority of people have great difficulty discerning the true from the false, good from evil, morality from immorality. We live in a day when governments, politicians, monetary authorities, and the media consistently lie to the people, and the people are indifferent to these lies, even if they were vaguely aware of what they were being deceived. Winston Churchill once said, "Most people, sometime in their lives, stumble across the truth. Most jump up, brush themselves off, and hurry on about their business as if nothing had happened." To most people, the world is a jumbled mess of conflicting and confusing ideologies without rhyme or reason or purpose. That is true on the surface, and today who looks beyond the surface at what is really happening? Very few indeed. The few have had the integrity, tenacity, and intestinal fortitude to dedicate themselves to the relentless search for the truth and understanding, have found it immensely rewarding and satisfying pursuit. A lot to chew on tonight, folks, but I had to get this out. Things are looking this way. Big time. This guy's been spot on. The past couple of years I've been reading these. Peace out all.